And welcome back to this week's edition of Two Coaches and One Grizz. Show note, okay, we are missing our esteemed coach emeritus, Mr. Gil Laura. He is on a much-needed vacation, and he will be back and better than ever next week. Hopefully, we'll get some of his thoughts and analyses that we'll be able to add to the show. But yeah, missing you, buddy, and we're going to do our best here today. So on today's show, we got our March Madness recap, the state of our bracket, where we stand, and some surprises that we saw this past week in the March Madness situation. However, we do need to start with the current edition of the NFL craziness that's been going on. Our esteemed producer, AC, did mention before going on air today that this is the most action he's ever seen in an NFL offseason. And for a second, he had to do a double take and make sure it wasn't the NBA. Because that's literally, it's been that insane. I don't think I've ever seen that many trades, this much money with signing players. I mean, it's just all over the place. Quarterback movement, just crazy. But we do have to start with the hometown blockbuster trade of Tyreek Hill coming to the Fins. Grizz, I know you got some thoughts on this.
Oh, we just picked up the cheetah. We just made this team a very fast, exciting, playoff caliber type of team. I think it's an amazing pickup for the Dolphins. I'm not going to think of all the times of the Mike Wallaces or some of these other things that happened in the past new regime. This guy is definitely top 3 talented receiver right now in the game. Great pickup for the Dolphins. But just as good of a pick for the Chiefs. 5 draft picks, right?
5 draft picks. So the Chiefs traded 6-time Pro Bowler Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins for 5 total draft picks, including the number 29 overall pick in this year's draft, the second round pick, number 50 overall, and a 4th round pick, as well as a 4th and 6th round picks in the 2023 draft. Totaling 5 draft picks. Essentially, when you look at the second round pick, number 50, like those are shoo-in starters, right? First and second rounders. If you have picks in the first 75 picks, like those are supposed to be starters. You know,
the second and third round picks are just as valuable as first round picks these days, and obviously cheaper.
Yeah.
So the talent is the first 3 rounds. You got yourself great picks, and they're doing what the Patriots did. Great teams know that. Listen, we can't pay everybody. We got Patrick Mahomes on a $500 million contract. You know, I'm sure Kelsey's signed up. They have other pieces there. Got to get rid of some sacrifices. And they know when to probably... Tyreek Hill should be great for us for a couple years, but they're willing to bet on their other receivers that they have.
Right.
They have other talent. They have that McKinnon that's coming, the running back that he was good. He had a good end to the year. They still have their players, and you still got to trust in Andy Reid. I think both teams made out great.
I mean, yeah, if anyone's going to figure it out, it's obviously Andy Reid. Just to give you a little bit some more particulars on the deal, Hill's signing an extension for 4 years worth $120 million. $72.2 million of that is guaranteed, right? So that's where the hang-up was in this whole situation. The divorce came about because they just couldn't match the numbers, right? The money.
It's business, baby. It's business. At the end of the day, no matter how great of a team they had together, man wants to get paid.
So I see this on both sides, right? The salary cap is going up. How much of the Mahomes contract has to do with this? I don't know. You know, I'm sure that that played a large factor.
Which they're still the contract ends up still being great for them because we already talked about it with several other quarterbacks that have been traded recently or signed. The deal they made for Mahomes, they were already looking down the future for him. He's going to be super cheap compared to the quarterbacks in the future.
Correct.
But right now, it still was too much that you can't keep.
Well, right. It's front loaded now, but down the stretch in years 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like they actually made a great deal, especially with the cap potentially being $250, $260 million in the next couple years. You know, again, we made this point last week that you can't look at it in terms of raw numbers. Yes, the numbers are eye popping, but you got to look at it in terms of percentage.
Rising up, and at the end of the day, you're still not taking that much percentage. We thought originally the Rodgers deal was terrible. It ends up being not as bad.
Not as bad.
So it's these teams right now, like A said, trades, free agents. Every day you have to be looking at the ticker for what's coming down the pipeline. We just talked about the Dolphins getting Tyreek Hill, trading for him, and making him the highest paid receiver, which a week ago, another receiver, right after we filmed our thing the next day, I think Davante Adams gets traded to the Raiders. He wants to be the highest paid.
Which is absurd. After, Rodgers signing.
After this whole dilemma with Rodgers and this guy. But they did say.
He had to have known, right, Grizz?
They did say. Of course he had to have known. He knew. And they did say this was their last run. We just thought the opposite.
Correct.
We thought one guy, or maybe both were leaving. But we never thought the scenario which would be Rodgers staying and Davante Adams leaving.
Have you ever thought this may be addition by subtraction with Davante Adams? That Rodgers was so reliant on him that it shot them in the foot during playoff time?
Maybe. But here's another thing that I think. Of all the positions that you can draft these days, there's a plethora of receivers.
Correct.
I think every year we've seen super talented receivers, second, third. Lately, the Packers just weren't drafting receivers for this guy. That's all he wanted. But now that they got rid of him, what do you think? You don't think they will? I think they will draft one, maybe two receivers for this guy. Now, will they be Davante Adams right out of the gate? Obviously not, but you never know.
Yeah, Davante Adams came out of Fresno State.
But you've had plenty of receivers. The kid Jefferson, obviously our boy Waddle, the kid from the Bengals. All these receivers, all these CeeDee Lamb, all these receivers. Talent, man. There's talent across the board. You're going to find them. Draft them. You put them with Aaron Rodgers. Anybody you put with Aaron Rodgers, he's going to make that much better.
Well, and I'm gonna look at it from this perspective that I think that there is a substantial possibility that it's going to be addition by subtraction, right? Because when teams played and game planned against the Green Bay Packers, what they do? They knew we're gonna bracket Davante Adams, and then everything opens up from there. Right? Now, in a sense, they become less predictable, right? He's going to spread the ball around by necessity at this point, right? Rather than having that security blanket, obviously a phenomenal security blanket. But again, they may end up prospering from this team-wise, this season. Aaron Jones gets a boost. They also have another young running back, A.J. Dillon, right? He's those two 1-2 punch in the backfield. Maybe they become less reliant on Aaron Rodgers. They hand the ball off a little bit more. It prolongs his career a little bit. Let's see what happens. They do have some question marks on the offensive line there, but I do want to jump back to Tyreek Hill really quickly. Yeah. He's called the cheetah for a reason, okay? And the reason why Mahomes has these enormous windows to throw to his other receivers, his other options, is because they have a guy like that who can pop the top off of a defense.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, yes, bona fide deep threat that, you can throw it a mile and he's still going to run underneath and catch it.
Well, there is the argument that Tua can't throw it that mile.
Correct. And that's where I'm going with this, right? This guy, he didn't just stretch the field vertically, he stretched it horizontally as well because he was able to go across the field. They were a vertical team because of him, and it allowed them to march down the field. Now, we go to a quarterback who, he showed that he could throw the deep ball in college, but it hasn't translated to the NFL. And what good does it do you to have that talent, the cheetah, on your side of the ball when you can't get it to him deep? When you know, right, that teams are going to squat and say, I dare you. That's my preoccupation here, is looking at it from, analyst perspective, not so much a fan because I'm not a Dolphins fan, but I mean, Grizz, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you can still get it done if it's not a deep 50-yard bomb. I just think you have these two receivers, Hill and Waddle, that basically your running game is going to be passing it, slants, these quick passes, and they're going to make things happen. I truly believe that you need the 50-yard bomb. And not for nothing, I think Tua, he's not going to be as consistent, but I still think he can get you a ball down the field. He's supposedly very accurate. So you just need this guy to have his full season, full training camp. He's the man going in. We got Teddy Bridgewater, so a lot of people thinking, oh, this could be another Fitzpatrick situation. The guy's out. This is it. You're going all the way in with Tua.
Right.
You have the talent now. He's getting protection. We also got to talk about the tackle he just got. The thing is, if you give this guy the resources and it doesn't pan out after this year, we're looking for someone else. That sucks. But now you're going to know for sure this, barring an injury, you don't want that to happen, then where are we going from there? But I don't know. I don't need the 50-yard bomb.
And I will say this. I will say this. Playing devil's advocate, right? It's never 100% one way or the other. There's always truth on both sides. We've seen legendary quarterbacks, get it done when their arm strength has been lacking. Right, we're talking about Peyton Manning in his later years. Right, the guy broke the record his first year with the Broncos, and I think his longest pass of that year was like 40-something yards. Right, same thing with Drew Brees. Drew Brees was not a vertical threat.
Noodle arm, you know what I'm saying, and we made it to a playoffs. I'm just saying we got a coach that right now it's his rookie. This is his first time playing as coach. Let's go. He's gonna have to evaluate this quarterback that he didn't draft. This guy going to be part of the system that he wants to run? I think if they can mesh, I have hope. Maybe I'm just a blind Dolphin fan. That's what I've always been my whole life. But the last few years, like I said, I wasn't. But right now, I like the moves they're making. I like this coach.
Well, it shows that they're putting in that effort. Yeah. They're not just settling like the Dolphins have usually done in the past 25 years.
This is the most competitive the AFC's ever been. I mean, it's just insane the amount of teams out there. There's so much we have to touch on to show why, that even with all the moves, the Dolphins are still probably fighting for like one of the last wild card spots. But the bottom line is, if you end up having Tua be the man and you can figure that out and you have the next 5, I always think 10 years is always long to say with these quarterbacks.
5 to 7.
If I say 5 to 7 years, and I know I got 5 years minimum of a great, a top 10 caliber quarterback, I think this team has a very good chance.
Yeah,
very good chance.
Listen, again, like you said, all moves are pointing in the right direction. They look like they're invested in finally just not being mediocre or not settling.
Our job is to react and discuss about moves that happen without knowing what's going to happen at the end of the day. We have no earthly idea whether this team is going to be 13-4, amazing offense, or fall on flat. What a terrible move. We just don't know. We are just in the beautiful world of talking this out, seeing what's going to happen. And as of right now, I love it. I love what I'm seeing.
And it also helps that the Dolphins also signed Teron Armstead, okay? Giving them a bona fide offensive tackle.
We picked up the number 1 offensive tackle out there. We got the best wide receiver you can say
market at this
besides
point.
Adams, but yes, currently on the market. They're picking the players. They're making moves. They're making noise.
Let's see what happens.
What other hyperbole would you like me to say, sir? You know what I'm saying? We're here. We're the Dolphins are being heard. That's as much as I got. I got nothing else because I could be here for another hour with the Dolphins. Continue, please.
Much to look forward to in the coming months, and this season is going to be crazy. Now let's jump to another new quarterback wide receiver duo up north. In Cleveland, we're going to focus on the quarterback for a minute.
Shocker this one is to me.
Watson gets traded, or agrees to a trade because he had a no trade clause. Agrees to trade to the Browns, going to sign a 4-year or 5-year deal, I believe, $230 million guaranteed. Okay, and then they pair him up with Amari Cooper, who comes over from the Cowboys. A lot to unpack here, okay? And let's start with the Watson situation, okay? Football-wise, I mean, before his whole situation blew up, we were talking about him in rarefied air.
Top 5 quarterback.
Literally, the conversation was, if he had been drafted by Kansas City instead of the Texans, would we be talking about him in the same light as Patrick Mahomes?
I think so.
And my answer to that is a resounding yes. The guy made it happen with a dysfunctional, to say the least, that's an understatement, a dysfunctional organization, and took them to the playoffs. And they were 20 minutes away from the Super Bowl.
They got rid of the best receiver, Hopkins. And that year he still had like top 5 numbers. If you were to cover their record, he had one of the top 5 best seasons for a quarterback. Like, you would say that's MVP numbers. He threw for almost 5,000 yards. He had over an 80% completion rate, which is unheard of. Of course. The only reason he wasn't considered because his team was 4-12.
He accounted for almost 90% of that offense combined, which is insane.
Now,
everybody else who's done that in NFL history won the Super Bowl.
Here's our problem, and we've already discussed this.
33 touchdowns, 7 picks, 4,820
We've discussed this
yards.
with our other fellow coach the last couple of weeks, and we were, we agreed, but a little disagreement. Problem is with this young man is no matter that he's cleared, suspension is coming down. And you agreed with that. You were saying I agree that there's a suspension is going to happen. Right. But it can't be a catch-22 here or double-edged sword, whatever analogy you want to use. If he's cleared legally, correct, right, theoretically speaking, there should be no suspension. However, we know that is not how the league operates. They have to protect their shield. There's some perception that they need to save here. He'll be talked to and said, you're getting the suspension because you got yourself into a situation where you almost got yourself in legal troubles and you made the shield look bad.
Correct.
And in any job, if you make your job look bad, they could discipline you even if you weren't,
So, Grizz, let me ask you a question. What do you think the suspension is going to be?
6 games. I would think it's the same as the Roethlisberger.
Right,
Zeke got 6 games. And then, but here's the other thing. You're giving this guy, this is the world we live in, unfortunately. You're giving a guy that had 22 allegations, right? Even though he's cleared.
Right.
We can at least say he doesn't have the best judgment probably for outdoor activities with situations on how to look upon the rest of the world looking at him. But this guy went through all this, demands that, and still, after all that, is given the contract he's given that, like, only a few players in this world can be given that contract.
You know what the best detail about this contract and the extension, this whole situation is that it's an extension, right, to his current contract.
Correct.
Because they traded him. His base salary for this year is $1 million. Mm-hmm. So of the $230 million guaranteed, only $1 million of that is going to be subject to suspension, garnishes.
Right.
Which is hilarious and insane.
Right. But I'm saying, what does that make other players? I mean, there's other players on the team that may resent that. Like, people maybe would.
I will tell you this:
better morals.
Homeboy better have a bomb ass lawyer because those civil suits and those settlements.
But I'm just saying,
eat up a lot of that cash.
You might. I'm not saying, like, honestly, football's football. I agree. Like, what you do off the field, if it's not illegal, I just, I don't like the character choices he made. And to be completely honest, will he never make that kind of mistake ever again? I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard to.
Which is crazy because we were talking about this guy as a bona fide, ironclad character individual before this.
I thought this guy was gonna be like the poster child of like what's right in America, what you want your son to grow up to be, that kind of guy. Because of the way Dabo would talk about him in Clemson, the way he led his college team, adversity and all that, how he's played. Never, not a peep. And then it goes from not a beep to 22 allegations of I like to get things touched on my body that maybe I shouldn't, or force ladies. Let's not do that kind of stuff. And the fact that he will never do that, I hope he learned his lesson. But he just got paid $230 million. And it kind of doesn't matter.
Now, so it's crazy because here's the dichotomy. Here's the dichotomy of the situation. If we're looking at just the sports side of it, the full football aspect of it, right? It's a no-brainer. He's worth every single penny of that
Correct.
and more, right? For that organization. An organization that hasn't won or sniffed a title in 65 years, give or take. Oh, so if you're looking at it from just a football perspective, and you're a Cleveland Browns fan, come.
Yeah.
Come. Do whatever you need to do. Let's make this happen. Because right now that makes them an instant Super Bowl contender in the AFC.
It does, especially that they picked up Cooper.
Correct.
They already had probably the most talented backfield.
Correct.
Back-to-back guys. You got a good line. You got a defense that is sturdy. The coach is good. He led them to the playoffs the year before.
Correct.
The only thing you were questioning was the leadership of Baker Mayfield. And if he had the stuff, you upgraded that by far. And I totally agree. They're going to have an amazing season. Unfortunately, they're going to probably have to wait 6 games, like I said. Will it happen this year? Probably not. You're still stacked in your own division with the guy who just led a team in your own state to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Who's going to be there for a decade.
Right. And they just added 3 offensive linemen to that.
So, every division in the AFC is getting stupid now. I think he can lead them to a Super Bowl, but you can say that about 5 or 6 teams right now.
Well, I mean, the AFC North, we talk a lot about the AFC West and the craziness that's going to be quarterback-wise and the additions that they made on those various teams. But the AFC North, you're talking about the Browns, who just picked up Deshaun Watson, the Bengals, who Joe Burrow just took them in his second year to Super Bowl.
That's steady Eddie right there for 10 years.
The Baltimore Ravens with elite Lamar Jackson.
The questionable elite Lamar Jackson.
And then now, all of a sudden, the stalwart in that division for decades, the Steelers, are the worst team in that division now.
And they're still probably not going to be the worst team because they have Mike Tomlin. The guy's never been under 500. The defense, he will do something to keep them
but I'll tell you what,
in the average.
They picked up Trubisky, correct?
Yes.
Let me tell you something, man.
Don't sleep on Trubisky? Is that what you're
Don't
going to say?
sleep on Trubisky, my brother. I'm not saying that he's a Josh Allen. But
he can lead you.
They were 26-13 when they were running an offense that suited him. And then all of a sudden, Nagy and whatever, I don't know what the hell happened. We're just going to scrap all that.
You know why I'm not going to disagree with you? I'm not going to disagree because at the end of the day, he's way better than what Ben Roethlisberger was last year, and they made the playoffs.
Because guess who Trubisky looked like a lot at the beginning of his career with all the potential? He looked a lot like Josh Allen. The problem was that he was not developed like Josh Allen is.
That's the thing.
Or was.
You will obviously the first couple of years in the league, if you got a terrible coach that doesn't develop you, you're not going to look good. And if you do, you're going to look better than maybe you thought you were. So yes, it's all about where you're at. Maybe the fact that he's going to be with an organization like the Steelers that have consistency. They have, you go there with respect. You know that you're getting a solid foundation. There's a good chance that the guy brings it around and he's good. And
especially with the organization that he's with now.
And he's still going to be the worst quarterback in his division,
which
probably.
Is insane.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
So you have a stacked AFC, North. The AFC West is still insane. Stacked because once we said we have Devontae Adams that went to the Raiders now. Khalil Mack, right? Went to the Chargers.
Mack went to the Chargers. So now they have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on opposite ends of the defense, right? And what do you need, Grizz? Answer me. What do you need to make a deep run in the playoffs?
What a great pass rush, a great defense.
A quarterback,
obviously
an elite quarterback, and an elite pass rush.
Absolutely.
And they just solidified that.
Those are your two biggest.
You guys want to all come to the AFC West? Check out what we're gonna do. That's exactly what they did.
Then you got Robert Woods, right? He signed with the Titans.
He signed with the Titans, correct?
The Jaguars, what they do, like 20 they signed like 20 people or something.
Yeah, I think they're just
some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
All right, forget about them. You got the Colts that just they traded for Matt Ryan.
AFC South, they traded for Matt Ryan.
I say upgrade from Wentz.
100%.
You know, even though Matt Ryan the last couple of years has been like, I just think he hasn't had enough good talent.
And the Colts is another team that is Super Bowl ready.
They got the best back.
They have the best offensive line in the game right now.
Offensive line.
Okay. And, the best back this past season.
Probably need a little bit better weapons outside. Maybe upgrade.
Pittman was young and up and coming.
I still need one more, especially for Matt Ryan. I need a couple more pieces.
He really kind of...
Because he's not going to make anybody better right now. He's
Pittman
kind of
had a coming out party second half of the season.
And their defense is good.
Defense is solid.
We just can't be choking, against the Jaguars last game of the season and not make the playoffs. But they were there. Ooh. And that division, because Tennessee, I think, is still going to be good. I think they'll come back down to earth. Because, Henry's still your top 3 running back. But once again, bro, that guy's going to take his tolls every year. How long is he going to last? So it could be very up. Colts could very easily win that division.
I say advantage Colts right now.
I think so too.
Because Matt, our other guy, our former ex-Dolphin, Tannehill, up and down.
Did they lose Julio Jones?
They did lose Julio Jones.
Where'd he go?
He is going to. I don't know. He hasn't been picked up yet. They released him.
Okay, so he's not coming back.
Yeah, no, they released him.
Yeah, that's why they got Woods.
But I'd say Woods is an upgrade at this point, in their respective careers. Although he is coming off of an injury.
There's like 3 bad teams: the Texans, the Jags, the Jets. That's pretty much it, bro. Everybody else is good.
And we talked about Matt Ryan being an upgrade from Carson Wentz, but in a funny twist of fate, right? The Washington Commanders get an upgrade in Carson Wentz at quarterback from the Heineken man, Heineke. Yeah, Heineke. So, I
think it's a flip of a coin.
You think so? You think that's a 50-50? No, come on.
Unfortunately, I'm not that...
Carson Wentz is an elite talent, but very inconsistent. I mean, guys, before his knee injury, we're talking about a guy who was going to be the
potential
MVP of the NFL.
Yeah, well, that was year 2, and that was 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago, though.
So
every year we can't say the potential MVP because every year keeps going away from that year.
Through 12 games, he was the MVP front runner.
I know that, but that was 5 years ago. It's okay. Ship has sailed.
Right. I want to jump into another crazy signing real quick because Von Miller to Buffalo signs a 5-year.
I know, and here is that's why I wish
$100 bajillion deal.
I know. I wish I had Gil for this one too because unfortunately, I'm simply saying maybe go back to the Broncos. Go back to your old team, be a good vet, and we were thinking, Gil was thinking, he probably wouldn't even go there, and then he goes to the Bills and they give him the world. That's crazy.
The world.
It was 6 years, right? And
it's a 5-year contract. I think only the first 2 are guaranteed.
I think the Bills are trying to get the Rams juju.
But let me tell you, man, it's a whole different world when all of a sudden you don't have Aaron Donald next to you eating up a double team.
I totally agree. Their defense, remember, was the number 1 overall defense statistically last year. So they got some decent players. They just they're not loaded with a guy like that. You're right, but. I think I just kept saying I think Von Miller still has a little juice left in the tank. He's at this point of his career. He's picking and choosing when he's going to do it because, a little older on the two,
Oof.
But he played amazing in the Super Bowl last year.
You were right. A massive 6-year, $120 million deal for Von Miller. And we thought he was done 2 teams ago.
Yeah, I still think he has the juice left, not 6 years, $120 million. I just thought it was like, okay, you won your Super Bowl. Let's go back to Denver. Russell Wilson's on the team. We're gonna make a push here. That'd be a great little spot. You're the vet. Teach these young guys. You're in for a couple more years, and then when the Bills say I'm gonna go $120 million for 6 years.
Well, here's my thing. They're paying him every down player money right now, and I'm telling you, at 32 years old, he's a situational pass rusher. You're going to get 15 to 20 premium snaps a game from him. Maybe.
He got paid on his name.
$120
got paid on his name, man. He got paid on his name. He went to another team, and they won a Super Bowl that he was a part of, and he played a very, very good game, right?
Oh, yes.
So that guy's getting
agreed.
paid on his name. The Bills are right there on the doorstep. I think, if I'm sure, they are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. So he's like, hey, I'm going to go to a team that's favored to win the Super Bowl and is going to pay me out the window. Come on, man. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I think it's amazing. I'm a big fan of Von Miller right now. Smart man.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Smart man.
Insane. But, as is the world, and these contracts are only going to continue to balloon.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned the fact that Jameis Winston re-signed with the Saints. Mariota is with the Falcons. We have all these
Russell
little
Wilson
smaller
with the Broncos.
deals, all these quiet, small, little quiet deals in the NFC. And that's another thing. Baker, I'm hearing from other people. I'm hearing that Baker would be left out on the street. I don't think so.
Oh, no, there's no chance.
I don't think so. I think Baker will be on a team next year competing for a starting gig.
Somebody will bring him in.
Want to put your name on that, sir? We have some background noise. I'm sorry that I'm hearing here.
Somebody will bring him in.
I think if obviously he's let go, Seahawks are a destination he can go. I mean, who else you got? Anybody else out there that needs a quarterback right now? I think the Seahawks probably your best bet.
But again, he's coming in to be a high-end backup or a bridge guy for a team that is potentially going to draft a young quarterback. Who right now? Because
the amount of commercials this guy was making last year
much got their
to
guy.
go to a 2 already, that's bad.
With the Panthers, right? The Panthers got some question marks.
Panthers might be a possible destination.
The Vikings have an albatross of a contract with you like that.
Once again, another brilliant man. That guy maximized his money his whole
Houston,
life.
but they drafted a quarterback in the first round, Davis Mills, last year. So they're probably going to ride with him because that's what they rode with the second half.
I think he can make, if he goes there, he can compete. I just think I think Baker's too. I think it's too early to fucking throw the dirt over him.
Yeah. So fully guaranteed is $45 million at signing. That they were able to spread that contract out for Von Miller real thin to make it worth it for him. But listen, and it's only going to get crazier. We're not even halfway done with the craziness that may potentially happen. Okay, a lot of quarterback movement. Probably, I think we would agree, the most we've ever seen in our time watching football. This just never really happened in the past. Now
a lot of quarterbacks.
It's Game of Thrones.
The carousel here.
It's Game of Thrones. So, I mean, this is the most wide open that I can remember the NFL being. If you sat here today, you can't definitively say these guys are going to win it or these guys have a shot.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I think Jimmy G might even stay with the Niners.
Correct.
Which is awesome.
Correct.
Because all his spots, I'm thinking about all his spots he could have gone are
that well
dried up.
Jimmy G or Baker.
Oh, Jimmy G.
Wow.
Jimmy G wins.
It's true. Jimmy G wins.
Jimmy G's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to a Super Bowl.
I still think
he was about 10 minutes away from winning that, okay? And
I think they still pick Baker up,
and he went to another NFC Championship game. You think they still pick him up?
Yeah.
You cray.
Over Jimmy.
He's going to be a high-end number 2. However, we shall see. That is the best thing about this podcast and our medium is that this is a show of integrity. We are recorded. We are out into the Twitter sphere and the universe, and we can go back and check our show of integrity.
Speaking of going back for the next segment, we're going to really see and go back and see whose picks.
Well, this is going to be
good
saucy.
And whose were not so good. And spoiler alert, I got to give props to a guy named Frankie called the Michigan.
Hey-o. We'll be right back with some March Madness updates. And we are back to discuss the state of our March Madness bracket. Okay, we had some good and we had some bad. As we stated in the last segment, this is a show of integrity. and we have a bracket of integrity. So just to give you a recap, each one of us picked a region. So the Grizz had the West region. I had the South region. Ace had the East region. And Coach Laura had the Midwest region. So we had some ups, we had some downs. We're going to talk about our surprises, our letdowns, what's holding strong, and everything in between. Grizz, first thoughts. Hit me.
Well, before I get specifically into like our picks and all that, it's been an amazing tournament. I think 100%. a lot of upsets, a lot of buzzer beaters. A lot of stuff to really enjoy. This is what it is. It's madness. However, sometimes you want a lot of upsets, but then the problem with a lot of upsets is once you get to like the Sweet 16 now that we're in, there's some questionable matchups. Sometimes 100%. You get to like a Final Four and you're like, it doesn't look all good. So now what we like to do is to transition more to the better teams. Hey, Cinderella, you had a nice little time, enjoy your weekend, all that. And now the big boys really get to play. However, one of our Cinderellas is our own 305 Miami Hurricanes. I mean, can you believe Mario Cristobal has been here 3 months and already he's brought the Canes to a Sweet 16? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. He's just the head football coach for the Canes. But that kind of energy has brought that. I mean, even the women's Canes made it to the second round, having to face the number 1 overall seed, South Carolina, and they gave it their all. But, it's been a great time. Larinaga, once again, I really miss having our amazing coach. And especially, this is his time of year. This is what he loves. He loves college basketball. But I've told him, I really like Larinaga. I think he got extended, and everybody's been like, oh, he's a little old. I'm like, he's still, it's like 5 years younger than Krzyzewski. He's still young enough. I still think he's vibrant. And I don't know if anybody saw after the win against Auburn, he did a little shake in the back, like for a celebration.
Yeah, he had a little hitch.
He still got it. And I'm telling you, man, I'm loving this kid more. I don't know if you've seen him. He looks like my boy from Good Burger. I'm saying from Saturday Night. This guy I'm saying, love this comic. I forgot his name. He looks just like him. No. And maybe. I don't know the exact name. But if you've seen Good Burger, So I love more. He's been
throwback.
Kid has been in 4 different colleges, man. I mean, he's using this transfer portal for everything. But not for, hey, I want to switch. He had family issues, things and that. One of the teams he played for was Kansas in his second year. And they so happen to be in the same bracket. If we win against Iowa State, Kansas plays Providence, they go. That'd be a nice little, reunion. They're also playing in Chicago, which is where the kid's from. So
Very
family and friends are going to be there.
You're going to have a lot of juice behind them.
You can't say more Cinderella than what the Canes are going through right now.
So while we're on this topic,
yes.
Would you mind sharing with us your own bittersweet situation with the UM's triumph this past weekend?
Well, the problem with that was that I had a nice little bet that Auburn was going to win the whole thing, and they kind of beat the team that I was going to go all the way for, and pretty high in our bracket. I mean, in our own bracket, we had them, I think, going to the finals here.
Oh, we had them in the final. We had them in the final four. Yeah, no bueno.
We had them in the final against Gonzaga. And I had liked Auburn all year, but once you see what happened, I honestly thought UM would be smoked by Auburn. I said it, but maybe I just, jinxed them or something. But Miami was the better team from the tip-off.
You reverse Andy on them.
I reverse Andy on them. And, once again, if you're going to cost me money, at least let it be my team, And now, I'm not going to say nothing. I just put just a couple bucks to see if they win the whole thing because they got some pretty good odds.
And it wasn't like it was, a barn burner by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
They smoked Auburn. 18 points.
There was a couple points that got close. And I don't know if you know the Jabbar kid from Auburn. He had this poster dunk against whatever 15 seed they played. It was a poster. It was amazing.
Yeah, the dude's still wiping his drunk off his face.
Yeah, it was probably the dunk of the year. And the very next game, he goes and plays against our team, and I think we got a guy named Wong.
I believe so.
Have you seen that guy?
I have. in passing?
Well, I don't know if you noticed the dunk he had against that kid Jabbar. I think it updated dunk of the year on that one because he smashed it right in his face. He left a sour taste in his mouth that they're going to have to stay with all year long. Sorry, Tigers. Sorry, Chuck. Old Chuck, thinking they were going to go all the way. Sorry. But anyways, I digress. Let me go to my bracket, my side with Gonzaga, who still alive for the championship. We had, I thought Michigan State and Duke, I see Duke made it. I had Michigan State going to beat them. I was thinking Duke has had some letdowns. They lost to North Carolina end of the year. They lost against Virginia Tech. I thought, it wasn't going to be the ending that Krzyzewski wanted, but, he beat an old rival. They're still going on. I got Texas Tech, I think I got right there. I like them. That was they've been playing great. UConn was my dark horse, but I should have known better. 5 seed, man. 2 5 seeds went down. I should have known better. Don't pick 5 seeds. 12's always going to get them. Arkansas has looked pretty good. You had, there was the upset New Mexico State. Obviously, had beaten UConn. They looked pretty good. Memphis gave Gonzaga a scare. Overall, I thought exactly where I was going to be. 50-50 with some of my picks. Because at the end of the day, nobody knows anything.
No.
Nobody.
No. You're better off picking him out of hat.
I told him, our esteemed ace here, he ended up picking North Carolina. He didn't know. He just said, I like North Carolina. I just like him. He just probably like the Baby Blues. And guess what? They upset a Baylor, which to me, the game of the tournament so far. They almost gave up a 25-point lead. Baylor came back. It was awesome. But I don't know. I think we still got Gonzaga in the shot. I'm good with that.
And Arizona's still alive as well. Mm-hmm. So we got them going to the Final Four. But Kentucky and Auburn out.
Well, Kentucky was, what are you going to do? You can't foresee that. See, that's upset. That's madness. Kentucky losing to St. Peter's. Who are these guys? I don't know.
Peacocks.
I don't know.
The St. Peter's Peacocks.
If you know the guy, Shannon, I think the coach. Bro, that coach, first of all, that coach is going to get a new job immediately.
Oh, 1,000%.
You know what he reminds me of? The kind of swag of a coach like a Shaka Smart. The guy who led VCU like a decade ago.
Shout out Kenyon College.
There you go. So he went to, after that, he got picked up by Texas. Now he's, I think, at Marquette. But hot name, got on a run. This guy, same thing. I like the coach a lot. I can't believe Kentucky lost.
I was in shock watching that game.
That was just.
Oh, my son was screaming in the background. But that's another.
I thought if they were going to lose, you get upset by Murray State, in-state. A team that's in a bottom 5 league in-state.
The Peacocks.
It's the Peacocks. They're from Jersey City. That's how I know that. Good old Jersey town.
Interesting. Yep. So let's look at Ace's bracket here in the East. We touched on it a moment ago here. He missed out on the St. Mary's, one of those vaunted 5-12 matchups. Yeah. But still alive. He picked UCLA, so UCLA, North Carolina, now in the next round here in the Sweet 16. Another one that he picked here, Purdue versus Yale. We knew that was coming. Yeah. Purdue over Texas. Okay, that was a good call there. And then he picked the Dons. You picked the Dons over Murray State, man.
Not bad. I didn't mind that. That was a
7-10 matchup. That's an okay.
But the killer was the St. Peter's pick. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You can't foresee that.
What are you gonna do there?
And once again, he got the same thing. He got the big upset with North Carolina. He got the unbelievable upset against him, Kentucky. But 50-50 for a guy that honestly zero. Right? You have zero knowledge of college basketball right now. He just knows names, and that's all you need to know.
So let's talk about Coach Emeritus Gill's side of the bracket here, the Midwest region. Homeboy had a rough weekend, to say the least.
Once again, I wanted him here so he could defend himself.
He'll defend himself. He'll come back with a vengeance.
And I know, and like he said, He did say LSU lost. See, I thought LSU wasn't going to win because of the coaching situation. He said LSU would win. Not that they would do it. He just gave the example that Steve Fisher coached Michigan to a title. Like that. I go, well, that doesn't happen every day. Very, I could see in the middle. Maybe they go on
Correct.
a run. But I just thought it was going to be a loss. Bottom line was the team that beat them, Iowa State, won 2 games the prior year, man.
And flipped it around.
Immediately. 2 games, immediately wins that game.
They went 2-22 last year.
Yeah, they win that game, and then they parlay that into a win against Wisconsin.
Insane.
And I see that Gil had Wisconsin going. No, he had LSU all the way to the Sweet 16. Like I said, not the run I thought.
Psych.
Auburn, unfortunately, we talked about. They lost to, and Gil is a true man. He, he's a big Kane fan, but he went with his head, not his heart. Should have gone with his heart, but that's fine. I also picked Auburn, so I'm not gonna
He got sniped with the 5-12 matchup as well. Richmond,
which I warned him. I told him the 5-12. It is the most volatile of any of the seed matchups every year.
Which is why do you think that happens? Like
because you have when you have and this is simple. Your 5 seed. Think about this. Your top 25, right?
Right.
If you think about it as the top 25 teams, once you get to 1 through 4, the top 6 teams are your 4 seeds. So now your 5 seed is a 17, 20. You're dealing with teams that are starting to be. They're not that good.
They're starting to taper
The
off.
6 seed is also, I think, he said that the 11s would beat the 6. I think 3 out of the 4 11s won.
Oh, he got sniped by that one too.
So that's the thing. Exactly. The 11 beat the 6 right there. I think these are teams that when you're dealing with the 5s and 6, they're the weakest of your top teams, right? And then you're dealing with 10, 11s and 12s. These are the best of the lower ranked mid-majors and stuff like that.
The automatic bids.
And these are the teams that for years, it's just they're good enough. They were working themselves to get in the tournament. And they got in because they were playing hot most of the times. Sometimes the team's a 12 seed because they dropped from being good. But most of the times are these teams that are on a run.
Right.
That's how I see it.
And also, great points all around. Also, you also got to look at these mid-major teams as they're more experienced teams, right?
Mm.
These are guys that they're not one and dones, right? So they're in the program for multiple years. And the reason why they don't get that respect in, the RPI rankings and AP poll and all that stuff is because their strength of schedule isn't great, right? They have to play a weaker conference.
Hence, a team like Gonzaga that years ago was that team.
Right.
But then they started winning, upsetting in the tournaments, started getting respect. Little by little, now they get the games to play because other teams now see them. I want to play Gonzaga because it'll bolster my resume. So it's just common, they're growing,
right.
Which has risen. The St. Mary's in their conference, San Francisco that got into. It's just raising their conference now to be a better tier conference.
So let me ask you this question, right? This just came to my head. You have, like we just talked, right? These mid-major teams, they have to work their way into the tournament. They have to get that automatic bid. Dude, how do you think the transfer portal is going to affect that in years to come?
This is just showed you. I mean, the kid Moore that came to the Canes, I mean, he transferred for 4 teams. He was in DePaul the last 2 years, and he only was in DePaul because it was in Chicago. He stayed home because the father had a stroke. But he's in his 6th year of eligibility. The COVID thing gave him the extra year. He transfers to the Canes. You're going to tell me that his transfer is not a main reason why the Canes are a Sweet 16 team?
Oh, no. I'm
huge.
Agreed.
But to me, in college basketball, not that big of a deal. It's
really?
The one and done. Remember, how do we have to deal with Kentucky all these years? One and dones. The Dukes one and dones. I mean, the transfer portal to me, I think, is bigger deal in football maybe. But I think in basketball, it's just, I don't know. I don't see it being that big of a deal. I think you do that anyway with a team like Kentucky.
I guess I see your point because if the dude's bona fide, he's going to a top tier program right off the hit. Whereas in football,
so
that situation
the transfer
is fluid.
portal, this guy Moore, it's like he's a one and done for the Canes,
right?
Which he is,
right. So let's jump to the South, which was yours truly's side of the bracket.
So out of the Sweet 16s, before you go there, we forgot Gil missed also on Iowa. So the only team we got in there was Kansas. So we have 1 out of 4 right in the Sweet 16 through Gil. 2-2, me and Ace. And our leader here, Frankie.
Okay.
You can talk about it.
So I'm going to thank you for the accolades this past week and congratulating me. But we're not out of the woods yet. Okay? I dropped the Seton Hall TCU game, but that was a toss-up, 8-9. But TCU smoked Seton Hall. So you would have wished that would have been a better
and also
better game.
The second best game of the tournament's the team they played right after against Arizona. That game was amazing. I saw that from start to finish.
Well, I'm glad that Arizona pulled it out because we'd be in some deep trouble if that wasn't the case.
The guy, their number one player, I forgot his name. He made a 3 to tie the game at the end to send it to overtime. That guy is a man.
The one game that did piss me off here was in the round of 32. Illinois, number 4 Illinois against number 5 Houston, and I was milliseconds away from picking Houston.
Yeah, I would have told you if it was my pick. I picked Houston,
and I was going with the Illinois. They had to go through the gauntlet. Big Ten. They were more probably battle tested.
Yet again, something I need to talk with our coach. ACC, weakest conference out of the Big Five this year.
And they have the
most.
Can
we agree?
Yes.
3 teams into the Sweet 16, tied with the Big 12 for the most teams in. Last year was the Pac-12 the weakest. They had 3 teams in the Elite 8. The thing is, I always agree. Yes, we've had a weak schedule in the sense of some of our teams, but they're still tough. I think every league, especially the top 5, doesn't matter how many teams make it. You're still dealing with what Gil says all the time. They're rivals. These are teams that you see every year, especially in college basketball, twice a year. So you're always going to get the toughest competition, even if it's a team. Boston College made a run in the ACC tournament. You're going to get tough games every game. These teams know each other. So you're battle tested in any league, I think. And here we are. Individual teams, North Carolina now as an 8 seed is looking like right now, if you reseeded them, to be a top 6 seed. The Canes, the way they've played, also that. Duke has been the shakiest of the 3 ACT teams, but still they're a number 2 seed.
Right.
I just think at the end of the day, these games in March, anything goes.
Oh yeah, no.
You're looking at matchups. Number 1, how these teams play against each other. So right now, going into the what's coming up and what you got right with everything else, because your biggest, you can go. Talk about your biggest pick.
I was just frustrated with the Houston Illinois game. At least give me a closer, a better fight there.
Yeah, make your Sweet 16 perfect.
To me, it would have been a nice icing on the cake. But I'm extremely proud of the Michigan pick, especially because Coach Emeritus on the other side there was rolling his eyes and huffing and puffing the whole time when I picked them to go to the Sweet 16.
I didn't think they had a chance of even winning the first game because the way they ended their season, the turmoil they had been in, they were the team that I was talking about had fallen down because they were a top 10 team start of the year. Having said that, the way they've played in the tournament, you can see the rally, that they're rallying for each other.
Sure.
What happened to the coach?
For sure.
And you're right. You ended up being right. And I couldn't believe the first one, but the second one against Tennessee, who I thought should have garnered a 2 seed and even questionable a 1 seed. For you guys to beat them, I was shocked.
Well, my thing was, and this is where I based it off of, is Tennessee was the best 3-point shooting team in the country, right? But again, as you've stated on multiple occasions, right, in the tournament, anything can happen, right? You're at a different and unfamiliar court, okay, different backdrop. You're not in a comfortable kind of automatic setting for that type of offense. Listen, 3-point shooting, man, can come and go. All right, we're looking on the other side of this, right? The almost exact foil of this in who lives and dies by the 3 also. They got hot, and look at what happened. Tennessee went cold against Michigan, and they were able to pull it out. And that's where I based it off of. That's a streaky situation to kind of lean your hat on or hang your hat on. Unfortunately, I do have their triumphant moment ending here against Villanova. in the Sweet 16. But now I'm not as sure about that pick as I was pre-bracket or pre-March Madness.
I think you should still be very sure about that.
Okay, I'm just saying. Like, as we've seen, anything can happen. Let's talk about this in the grander scheme of things. Looking at our group that our bracket was entered into, we're right in the thick of things. Okay, we're currently tied for 13th in our bracket or in our group out of who knows what 25.
Yeah, but our problem is maxing out.
Right, our problem is maxing out. We have a max of 1,250 points that we can get. The good thing is what the top 5 of the top 10 teams, their winner is already out of the tournament, so they're going to start free falling real quick. We're right in the thick of things.
We lost 2 of our final 4. We're not looking. I personally don't think we would finish first. We don't have a chance, I think. We'd have to have everything literally go perfect.
Who says it can't?
No, I'm not saying it can't. But since I'm a betting man, that's how I got to say it.
I think we got a chance to be top 3. There's a lot of people dropping off of this in the next couple days. For sure. And shout out to Mr. Shanauer, who gave me the lovely eye jammy that I'm sporting right now, for those of you who have seen the pictures. Opening weekend, you pick one game wrong, and it turns out to be the team that you had going all the way. Great job, sir. Phenomenal. Enjoy your time in first place while it lasts, because it ain't happening past this weekend.
See, I have a personal one that I did in the same, league as our team one. I have a 1540 as max.
Well, I'm pulling for you, bro.
No, but I don't feel as confident because right now I'm tied for last. Like, everything has to really work out perfect for me too.
And Coach has a 1550 max, so he's still alive there.
Well, if I were to tell you right now from what I'm seeing, even though we have we have Arizona and Gonzaga left. If one of those lose, especially Gonzaga, forget about it. Put a fork in it. The Gonzaga-Arkansas game, Gonzaga, no problem. Our Texas Tech-Duke game, we got Tech going. I think that could be the end. But once again, that's the goodbye tour. Who knows what the mindset is. North Carolina, UCLA, 2 Blue Buds. I mean, the North Carolina team's been hot. We got UCLA. Hopefully that works out in our favor. Purdue and St. Peter's. Cinderella lose a slipper. Yeah, bye-bye. I loved you. We got to go. And I think, the one that's going to be the dicey one will be our Arizona-Houston game. Because Houston is legit.
Yeah, they're...
Kelvin Sampson, great coach. They were in the Final Four last year.
They are...
So they are a legit... Like, that could be, again, the game of the Sweet 16.
The nail in the coffin for us as well.
And that would be, if we lose that... Even if we have Gonzaga, the problem is... There's like a bunch of people in front of us that have Gonzaga, so that would not work. Your Michigan, Villanova, don't, stick to your principles. You have Villanova, I believe in you. Villanova is going to beat Michigan.
Thanks, Grizz. I appreciate it. I also do want to state that Sister Mary did me dirty on that 7-10 matchup with Loyola Chicago against Ohio State. We couldn't pull that one out.
Even the Lord took a week off, man. That's just what happens, man,
Thanks, Sister Mary. Appreciate it.
But obviously the biggest one of the week, which doesn't really affect us in our bracket, Miami and Iowa State. Let's go Canes.
Let's go Canes, baby. The U. Let's make it happen.
Yep.
That would be amazing. Gentlemen, I think that wraps it up for this week.
Yeah. Short and sweet. We missed our boy Gil, but
he will be back and on fire next week. You know that for a fact.
And he'll be back talking about Sweet 16, Elite 8, what happened, getting ready for the Final Four. I'm sure someone's going to get smacked up in a fight somewhere that we'll talk about, which we will discuss with him, because I didn't want to discuss this without him.
That's his.
The sucker punch fiasco with Masvidal and Covington.
Looking forward to breaking that down with him.
That's going to be a fun little discussion. Another shout out to the Miami Heat still being in first place. That one we give out to Ace, our boy right here. Always loving our Heat talk. We'll get into the playoffs. I know we're going to talk Heat and basketball, NBA basketball. We'll get into the playoffs, so we'll dive more into that. But other than that, fantastic show as always.
Yeah. Subscribe, listen, follow, share, grow our legion of followers and listeners. Okay, we've had a phenomenal time doing this to this point. It doesn't feel like work to me. This is an amazing time. And one last shout out to our initial sponsor of Two Coaches One Grizz, General Carnitas Gourmet Meats.
Man, it's the best meat out there.
You can go on generalcarnitas.com and order your premium meats, premium and exotic meats.
Who doesn't want
today.
a little carnita in their life?
Listen, premium gourmet meats, amazing stuff, and next day delivery in anywhere in the Dayton Broward area. So subscribe, follow, listen. Love you all. Can't wait for next week. Two Coaches, One Grizz.